site is what I would call a wetland, a fen, F-E-N, dominated by sedges, which is the yellow-green here, and that's a giveaway that it's going to be wet. And also horsetail and marsh marigold and willows. But especially if you look at the soil, it's not mineral soil. That is, it's not sand, silt, or it's actually organic peat. You can just sort of squeeze it and it oozes between your fingers when it's wet, which it usually is, because it's at the bottom of the slope and it's receiving moisture coming down the slope. And this ruts really easily and then fills up with water. The plants get killed. The root mat is broken, so you can't really drive over this because what support there might have been there earlier is gone. And especially early in the year where this would be filled with water, it would really be hard to get through. So the vehicles have gone off to the side here, a little bit uphill, but it's still a wetland. It's still a fen there. When I push this ski pole in, it goes down. I've hit gravel now. Okay, so that's over a meter. It's more like 120 centimeters of peat. So I think what's happened here, there's sort of a dam of peat that's built up. It built a ridge which impounded the drainage, which is coming down off the slope. And there was probably in the past maybe a pool here, like you often see in the subalpine meadows. A pool that has subsequently filled in with vegetation, which then when it decays forms the peat. And now there's no open water. That's what I suspect happened. So it's another shrub sedge fen, but the peat is much deeper, and this would be big trouble, even bigger trouble if the vehicles went through here, because it's essentially bottomless. Fortunately, they haven't in this spot. Isn't deep here. It's just maybe 10 centimeters. It's always wet. Oh, it's deeper there. It's always wet, and the roots have just been chopped up by the tires, so the soil is losing its integrity, and this little rivulet will continue to cause erosion and downstream a little bit of siltation. Multiply this by however many small stream crossings there are, and it adds up to a lot of damage. So this track, again, that's about 30 centimeters of peat, but it's really wet here because there's a little rivulet coming down, and he's crossed the rivulet here at a low point, and it looks like sunk in as far as he could with the tires, and had to really give her to get out of here. And so there's actually three different crossings of this wet spot. Track from a previous year. You know, superficially it doesn't look like they sank in too far, but notice they didn't try and go over it again. This year they went a little bit upslope, which still didn't help. But when I pushed my ski pole in here, there's over or about a meter of peat. So if they tried to go over this one a few more times, they'd probably sink to the bottom. So even though these subalpine meadows are not unusually wet and they're reasonably well drained, that doesn't mean that you can drive over them without causing damage, especially if you're in early in the season and the soil is still wet from snowmelt, and you can see that appears to be what happened here. There's fairly deep tracks, and of course the machines would be going uphill on their way back this way and probably grinding out more. And over time this can then turn into a gully as erosion increases, and as the water flows downhill it'll keep eroding and eventually form a gully. And then the track will have to go somewhere else. Wetlands are not merely confined to flat or gentle sloping bottomlands like in some of the previous pictures. This is on a fair slope here. It's a sloping fen, mostly sedges and that white bog orchid, and then some of the wetland mosses and liverworts like this one here. So even though it's a moderate slope, it's still wet enough that it's a wetland. It's organic soil. It's not as deep as that stuff in the valley, but it's 20 to 30 centimeters deep, and the tire tracks are causing erosion here. It's getting deeper in that can capture the runoff and can also cause some drainage of the wetland laterally into these tracks, so it could actually dry parts of the wetland out. Okay, just a good exposure here, instructive exposure of the organic soil you get underneath this wetland vegetation, this fen, the shrub, willow, sedge, fen. It's this organic soil. The exposure here is caused by the tires sinking in and churning through. And it's the consistency of clay, but it's not clay. You can rub it between your fingers and it's velvety. And if you actually, you're not supposed to do this, but I did in the past. If you put it between your teeth, you will detect no grit. It's just decayed organic matter, like roots and leaves and mosses decay, and they build up as this peat. Really wet, greasy, and if it's wet and you churn it, it turns into loon shit. And of course erosion downslope.
Excellent.
So this is another stream crossing, very small stream coming in here from this wetland complex, flowing down, and the stream crossing is in front of me here. You can see there's a lot of churning of the surface organic matter, the peat, and then you can see the gravel, the mineral soil below the peat. Lots of erosion happening, and I don't know how many machines have come in this year. Doesn't look like many, but even if there were a few, they've caused a lot of damage, so we can only speculate about how much damage would occur if there were, 5 times or 10 times the number of machines coming in per year. They would obviously follow this track, and there aren't that many places to cross this creek, so they'd probably continue to cross it right here or in the vicinity, causing more damage, more erosion, and it could become even impassable over time if there's a lot of machines, and they might have to, blaze a new trail somewhere else. Another consideration that I should mention is that in these subalpine streams, there is a red-listed lichen that grows in water. It's a true aquatic lichen, and there aren't many of those. Lichens are those combination organisms, a combination of a fungus and algae, and they form their own entity. This aquatic lichen looks a bit like blue-black leaf lettuce, or a bit like some seaweed, and it grows on the rocks in clean-flowing alpine and subalpine streams, and it apparently cannot tolerate siltation, and it doesn't grow where the streams are subject to erosion and siltation. It occurs on Hudson Bay Mountain. We found it in several places there, coming from the prairie, and then as the prairie creeks drain down the south slope into the glades, it grows there. It grows at the headwaters of John Brown Creek, in behind Rocky Ridge. We haven't found it in the Talca Mountains or on the microwave, and I haven't looked for it here, but I think I'll have to start looking for it in some of the creeks, because obviously that would bring endangered species legislation into the picture. So even if it's an upland site and it doesn't have organic soil, you can still get a lot of erosion from these machines if there's a slope, a significant slope, and if the water flows along the track, and that's what's happened here. This is mostly mineral soil. That orange stuff is mineral soil. It's silt, but it's been eroded right down to the cobbles and boulders of the basal till here, and these trenches have captured the runoff, so it's starting to gully, probably eventually form a deeper gully, and the machines have been forced off onto the adjacent track here, where they're starting another gully system probably. So even if it's not a wetland with peat, you can still get lots of erosion and damage to vegetation and soils. So you might wonder about the significance of the damage caused by the first pass of a vehicle as compared to subsequent passes. And you can see here in front of me, this is the first or second pass, looks like. And this happened this year with this crushed vegetation here. And it has caused quite a bit of damage. It hasn't completely killed off the vegetation or the root mats yet. And if there was no subsequent passes over this track, it probably would recover fairly quickly, especially in places like this where it isn't too wet. There's a little more damage where it's wetter, but still, this first pass here would probably recover fairly quickly. On the other hand, here is where it looks like there have been more passes. This is from years before, and I don't know how many years, but it looks like several passes have occurred here, and the damage has increased greatly. So instead of having just a few centimeters of surface disturbance, there's like 20 or 25 centimeter deep ruts in this surface right down to the gravel and cobbles of the mineral soil. And there's several iterations as they moved sideways. So it's likely that multiple passes cause multiple damage or multiplied damage. So my old ski pole is still going down to about a meter or a meter plus. So there's been severe damage inflicted on this wetland ecosystem. You can see the track from previous years, which is pretty well now impassable, so the machines have tried to go around it on both sides. And to me, it's a sobering thought that if a forest company did this, they would probably be charged under the Forest Practices Act at least. And if it involved a stream crossing like some of them do, then there would definitely be some kind of disciplinary compliance action taken. But it's not happening with these ATVs, unregulated ATVs. We're back along the trail, and I just have seen the first weed along the section of the track that we've walked on. This is the invasive alien yellow devil hawkweed. You see it a lot along the highways and the logging roads. It colonizes after the roads go in, and it's happening here. Yeah, it's not a good